Hamas. Well, actually, it's been proven that you can work with Hamas. America, we work with Hamas, get our hostages back. It's just a bit strange that Israel can't. And now we're hearing language that Israel just wants to go in, take all of Gaza, and all Palestinians are the same. There's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian, which rhetoric has been being used since the beginning of the conflict. Now they're just going ahead and showing their real colors about how they truly feel. And now I know you guys are saying, "Set, come on, bro, you're going too far. Israel don't want to eliminate the Palestinians." Well, I would ask you this. Listen to the rhetoric of those who are also pro-Palestinian and hear what they got to say. And understand that if they're also saying that, oh, well, all Palestinians got to go. Oh, these people are not accepted in no country. And I always did say this, and this is going to sound big cut, but how can you guys can say that about the Palestinians and not also bring up the Jews is hilarious to me. So, and this is why I say that. So, how many countries have the Palestinians been kicked out of besides their own? Besides their own? Maybe like 3, 4, 5. Okay, cool. Well, if they're an evil people for that, then what does that say about Jewish people who've been kicked out of 109? So, and I don't like to see either people as evil. No, I see them as equal and they can be equally good and equally bad. So when you guys bring up points like that, it kind of goes against what you guys are saying. Cause I'm like, okay, well, if you're harping on them for being kicked out of 5 places, then what do you think about the Jews being kicked out of 109 and the fact that we had to give them their own land? Not them coming in and assimilating with others. We gave them their own land. So then what would that say about them? See, and that's why I leave that argument alone.
Strong men built the West and won the wars and built the building that we're in right now.
But let's get over to this Charlie Kirk debate. I think he's at Oxford. Yeah, he's at Oxford. 300 Oxford student. God damn, 300.
Strong men built the West and won the wars and built the building that we're in right now. And without strong men, then you all of a sudden see civilization unfold upon itself. And we're seeing that happen in real time.
Charlie Kirk is the founder and president of Turning Point USA, a prominent conservative youth organization with a presence of over 2,000 high school and college campuses across the United States. He served as the chairman of Students for Trump, which focused on mobilizing young voters during the 2020 presidential election. Kirk is the host of the podcast, The Charlie Kirk Show, and maintains a social media presence following with high levels of engagement across all platforms. So please welcome me introducing Charlie Kirk.
All right, let's hear these arguments.
Welcome.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to go straight into it. So some of my first questions are regarding immigration. So you've argued the 14th Amendment has been misapplied to undocumented immigrants. And if so, you oppose birthright citizenship. And if you do oppose birthright citizenship, what alternative system would you propose for determining who's automatically a citizen, and how would you address the risk of creating a legally precarious or stateless class of US-born children?
Okay. It's a good question. And first of all, thank you for having me, and great to be here, everybody. So if you don't, I was amazed. I was at the other place yesterday, so we hope that you guys are going to be even better, right? We'll see what happens. I was amazed by how much you guys care about American politics and you know about our system of government. So if you don't know, I'm just going to kind of just give you a quick overview. So we have the 14th Amendment. It was one of the post-Civil War amendments. It's been used to applied for a lot of different things. One of the ways that it's been debated is this idea of birthright citizenship. So birthright citizenship is that currently in America, you could fly from Beijing, China, 9 months pregnant, land in San Francisco, go to the hospital, and your baby is a full U.S. passport holder, full U.S. citizen. No reservations, no asterisk, nothing at all whatsoever. So that is what's called birthright citizenship. Most of the rest of the world doesn't have it. I don't even think you guys have it here in Britain, where you could just come into the country and have a baby and you get a passport and you become a full citizen. So the question is, does the 14th Amendment apply?
Oh yeah, we got about let's see here, 54 of you guys on X watching. Hey guys, make sure you guys follow me on X. Appreciate the support, guys. All right, let's keep it going, because hey, shout out X.
To the children of non-citizens. Well, the Supreme Court ruled in the late 1890s in what's called the Wong case that it does apply to the children of permanent residents. Since 1890, I think it was 1898 or something similar to that, it has not yet been decided or adjudicated whether or not illegal immigrants or non-American, non-permanent resident, non-U.S. passport, non-green card holders and their children can get birthright citizenship. I think that we should join the rest of the world, including your country, and not give just full U.S. citizenship for people that come on birth tourism to the United States.
Thank you. So then what is the alternative system you propose? Because I know the UK has a similar system, but I think Ireland still has kind of like the birthright system state and stuff like that. So what would be your alternative?
Well, to the birthright citizenship question, just get rid of it.
Yeah, shut it down.
And replace?
Well, there should be no replacement, meaning that if you want to come to the United States of America, apply like everybody else and get in line, and you don't get to show up pregnant and have a child, and that child becomes a full U.S. citizen.
So in terms of situations where like the parent has been an undocumented immigrant for a couple of years or decades at this point, and they're having children, where does that leave the children? Do we then create like a state of like basically people who don't have kind of like documentation?
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. They do not become U.S. citizens. So our belief is that we should deport everyone who is in our country illegally back to their country of origin. Something that finally your Labor Prime Minister is waking up and saying he wants to do. I hope he actually does it. But it's quite a concept that you're not allowed to come into a country unless you're invited.
Well, man, yeah, and hopefully the people don't kick and scream about it like the ones in LA. So trust me. They can have the idea, but you see how executing the idea plays out.
And so we in the United States just won a popular vote election, a popular vote majority and electoral vote majority under the idea that we want mass deportations. So if you are in our country illegally, the United States, it is our plan to return you back to your country of origin as a full family unit.
Okay, thank you. And then talking about kind of the idea of mass deportation and basically Trump winning an election and that, we've seen recently that he's been expediting the refugee applications of white South Africans, claiming they are victims of racial discrimination. Considering what you've just said about kind of mass deportation being the view, what do you think justifies the embrace of white South African immigrants, white South African immigrants and their temporary legal protections that Trump is granting them?
Well, for one, one of the leading political parties in South Africa is saying that we should kill the Boer over and over again in a endorsed chant from the top leaders in a political rally saying that we should go kill the white South African farmer. You can look at videos of crosses that will fill roads for miles of white South African farmers that have been brutally murdered in their home.
Now, to go ahead and speak on this real quick. Now, I've been able to confirm that there's a white genocide going on, but I have been able to confirm that there is, white genocidal language being used. There's genocidal language being used towards whites, but it is hard to confirm that that whites are being, unalived indiscriminately.
Basically because of what is called land reparations at worst. So this is at best, and then there's another word that we could use for it, which we'll see if it actually qualifies for that as time goes on. But yes, I mean, this is a group where a government has decided that we are endorsing the worst and most venomous form of racial hatred against white South African landowners, and they're fleeing appropriate asylum with the United States. Hilariously, it's only been like 25 people that have received this asylum, and the American completely okay with every other type of person on the planet to be granted asylum. Like 15 million people they want to grant asylum. But when 15 white South Africans want to show up to the United States and have asylum because there's actually an endorsed mantra and chant to kill them, all of a sudden there's a major issue. I wonder why.
Thank you. So then considering that, so if it applies to, for example, Nigerian Christians being killed in Nigeria and other kind of like world atrocities we're seeing across the world where people are in a vulnerable position, you would agree then that they also should have their applications?
It can. Again, it's a case-by-case basis. And if one of the leading political parties in Nigeria, whether it be the Muslim or the Christian faction, was outwardly saying we must kill the Muslims or we must kill the Christians, we're a very generous country. We're willing to look at all the cases associated. I happen to know the South African one better than the Nigerian one. I mean, Nigeria is the most populated country in Africa, so it's not unreasonable that something like this could happen. But the United States of America is a generous country. We've been known when it meets the criteria that we are a place that you can find safe refuge. The problem is our asylum process has become a scam the last 15 years, where people from countries just that have high crime rates are able to say that I am fleeing violence to come to the United States of America. Well, guess what? The United States is also very, very violent. You go to Chicago, go to Philadelphia, it's not exactly a good cause or good claim. And that is in a bad way That is a way where our compassion as Americans.
Yeah, I mean, that is how the asylum system was being abused. It's like, oh, well, my country's violent. Oh, okay, yeah, come on in here. It's like, whoa, yeah, maybe there should be, some type of persecution going on to where he can't escape it. Nah, this your country is violent. Like, maybe you should go back there and I don't know, help out a little bit, become a police officer.
Is being taken advantage of for an ulterior political motive.
Thank you so much.
If your portfolio is over $250,000 and you aren't hedged, your portfolio with institutional grade gold and silver. Right now, every qualified investor, noblegoldinvestments.com.
Moving on slightly to a different topic, which is abortion. Currently, there is a woman who's been declared brain dead in Georgia and is being kept on life support because the state's restrictive abortion laws that ban abortion after cardiac activity is detected, generally at 6 weeks. So I want to basically ask you, your thoughts on that and how you think kind of like the pro-life arguments apply.
I'm having a hard time hearing it. So you said there's a woman in Georgia that's on life support because she was not able to get an abortion?
So she's being kept on life support because she still has this baby in her womb. And
she has a what? I'm sorry.
She still has this baby, but she's like brain dead, completely brain dead.
She still has a baby?
Yes, but she's being kept on life support just because of this baby. And this is just due to the state's restrictive abortion laws that ban abortion after cardiac activity is detected.
So, I'm confused here. So are you arguing that it's wrong that she's being kept alive for the baby's sake? What are you trying to say?
So I don't know enough about the case. Why is she on life support? Is it a pregnancy-induced ailment or is it a unrelated?
Separately ill, but the idea is she's completely brain dead. So basically the only thing that's keeping her alive is this machine because of the baby due to restrictive abortion laws.
Yes.
I mean, isn't that like a thank God moment? Well, hold on. We're able to keep this brain dead mother alive while being able to protect the life of this baby because of abortion laws. So abortion laws save babies, pretty much. Okay, I'm cool with that.
I mean, that baby is going to be able to live, praise God. And that mom will now, her parting gift to the world will be another life. I think that's beautiful. Okay. Unless there's an element of the case I'm missing, like she has pregnancy-induced sepsis, or there's something related to the case that I'm not aware, because I do believe in the exception for the life of the mother, but that doesn't sound like that's what this case is.
So to be clear, like the mother is dead, and like,
so what? The baby got to go too? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, wait, do we know who the father is? Was there no father in sight? Even then, I still wouldn't say we just end the baby's life. Like, what are you trying to say, sis?
Well, hold on. How is she dead if she can?
She's being kept alive.
Hold on a second. How is she dead if you can gestate a baby?
She's brain dead.
But she's not dead. Hold on a second. She's brain dead, but let's re-examine what being dead means. How can you actually have a baby fully develop within you if you're dead? And that's what's always so interesting. People that are called dead, they could still get pregnant. Women who are dead still menstruate. They still, when they are stabbed, their adrenaline levels go up. And again, this goes back to the fundamental question of what is a human being and when does life begin? And it would be very interesting. Shouldn't the question also be, I don't know what her wishes are. Do we know her wishes or not? Or
well, the thing is, again, she's brain dead. She can't give us her wishes.
Well, no,
but
I'm saying, but hold on a second. Again,
she
could have prior to this of the pregnancy said, "I want to do whatever is possible to save my baby." So that's not a dumb question.
Yes, okay? But I'm not saying it's a dumb question.
Okay, so we don't know. So therefore, since we don't know her wishes,
but she did answer it kind of snarky though, and that is the problem with these the liberal college students. They do have a very condescending tone to them.
Should yield on the side of life, and if that baby is able to survive and the mom dies, I mean, that is of course the moral thing to do.
Surely, considering her family is kind of like, please have been to basically save her first, which is obviously not possible anymore. But
I'm sorry. So the family wants to save the mom, but you said she's brain dead, so there's no way to save her.
So my point is,
she's simply just a vessel for a life.
Well, do you think that's okay for women to just be vessels for life?
No, of course not. In this extreme case, though, which
yeah, but you guys are, and I mean, it's not okay for you guys just to be a vessel for life. Like, this ain't the Handmaid's Tale or nothing, but I mean, it is needed for you guys to be vessels of lives. Like, what's the problem here?
Is a moral question of, if you terminate the mom, the baby dies. If you can keep the mom, quote unquote, alive long enough, another life enters the world. That is a morally great thing for humanity to be able to say another life comes into the world when someone who is brain dead would otherwise have no contribution to the species.
But what if this continues when we see more restrictive abortion laws in different states?
Well, we're not. This case that you're saying actually proves my point that she doesn't have agency, she doesn't have consciousness, so we should yield on the side of the protection of the human being in utero.
So here's my point. The reason why we have this case happening in the first place is because of how restrictive the abortion laws. So here's my point.
Abortion should be banned in the United States of America, and we're well on our way to do that.
Well, so
yes, correct, completely, except for the life of the mother.
Okay, so in the exception of the life of the mother, you agree that that should be. But in this case where we basically have these women being vessels as brain dead individuals, and we're continuing to carry these pregnancies to full term, do you think this is like morally okay in terms of what if the woman says no beforehand, she doesn't want to be carried as a
I guess
vessel?
the question I would pose.
I mean, if she said no beforehand, I mean, let's be real. I would still put the life of the child over the wishes of the mother, to be quite honest with you, especially if there's a father popping up like, yo, I want that baby. And the mother's like said, oh, well, just in case this happens, I want to take me and the baby out. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna listen to the father. I'm not gonna lie to you. Even if there was no father, I'd just sit there and be like, bro, what? You just want to take out your baby along with you, bro? What type of person are you?
To you or anybody else, what is the moral difference between the baby and the womb and her? One is older. Are they not both human beings? I mean, why all of a sudden that we're able to say that she's older and more developed, that you can eliminate the smaller being? Why is that okay? Under what moral standard it is okay to eliminate beings smaller than you, or because that you've been developed more? In fact, we should, as humanity, say, under this very extreme case, and thank you for bringing it to my attention. I'm actually going to talk about it because it might be used as like a way to like put us on defense, but in some ways it shows that we value both human beings, that mom who might not have nothing else to give, again, the last thing that her body can actually do is to have another life, her offspring, enter into the world. And of course I will defend that, because every human life is exceptionally and uniquely made, and we believe in universal human equality, the first of which is life.
Okay, thank you.
And trust me, it's not like I'm just all the way anti-abortion like Charlie Kirk is. I believe in like 4 to 6 weeks, but yeah, in that situation, I'm rock with Charlie on that one. I'm like, yo, no, I don't want the. What are you trying to say? Just because the lady brain dead, the kid got to go too? Is the kid going to be brain dead too, or something? Like, make it make sense.
So some other abortion-related questions, kind of like touching on what you said. You've kind of talked about obviously the safety of the mother being like the only kind of like bar in which you think abortion should.
Correct.
Yeah. So what about abortions in cases of sexual assault or rape?
Yeah. So again, let's just say I have 2 ultrasounds here. One of the ultrasound is a baby that is conceived in rape. The other one is from a loving marriage. Do we know which one is which? So they're both human beings and they both deserve human rights. Someone in this audience was conceived in rape. Do you know who?
Damn. And there's his wild theory, which is hard to really beat, but I consider it a wild theory that, yeah, I mean, what do you say? The crime and the crime is separated from the life. So just because the baby was conceived in a crime doesn't mean that the baby should die because it was conceived in a terrible crime. I'm like, huh.
Tell me, do they look different? Do they get less rights? Are you not able to have free speech rights because you're a rape baby? No, we believe in universal human equality regardless of how horrific or evil the method of conception is. That is what built the West, and I will continue to defend that.
So then what happens in cases when the baby that is a product of rape or sexual assault is mistreated, is abused?
That's a separate issue. There's plenty of babies that are in loving monogamous marriages that are mistreated and abused. Separate. There is no correlation.
Yeah.
There's no moral justification to say that I think.
What aboutism? Well, what about no, because trust me, it's like a kid born in normal conditions could be put in that as well. So unless you got a study saying that, oh, well, rape babies are more likely to go through this, that, and the third, or go through a terrible life, then yeah, maybe we can make that argument. But there's no study that's been on that to confirm that.
Or I even have data that baby will be abused or mistreated. Therefore, murder is okay.
I mean, there is correlation. I think it's very clear when they've been perceived in very, very horrific situations. The mother specifically as well is obviously in terms of.
Hey, shout out to my man Vlad Steen. He said abortion is a nasty procedure. Imagine doing that to a full-grown adult, bro. Mincing an adult is wild. Man.
mentally, the impact they have on her, that still the mother has to raise that baby all the way till 18 years
Still
old.
not a justification for murder. And if you think that abortion is just
Oh shoot, hey Vlad, what's going on with you? And cool too.
a medical procedure, a cosmetic type intervention, no different than getting plastic surgery, women have regrets after abortion. They have psychological trauma. Again, the question is, do we defend human life universally as a statement? And if the question is, I'm going to just kind of, well, I can eliminate the smaller life because I have regret of a sexual encounter I had, then I find great question with that. On the rape thing, though, to your point, it is the hardest thing that we have to defend on its surface. Rape is awful and terrible. Rapists should be castrated.
I mean, I'm be honest with you, my real beliefs on it one, like the 4 to 6 weeks, unless rape, incest, and detriment to the mother's life. Yeah, I'm okay with abortions happening for rape. I'll be quite honest with you guys, but bro, Charlie's stance, I mean, he has a solid defense of it. Just personally, I would be like, I ain't gonna lie, bro. I don't know, bro. I can't rock with you on that one. But I hear your defense. It's a pretty damn good one.
And put in life for jail the rest of their life. The more important fundamental question is, under what moral standard it is okay to do something evil after an evil act?
Crazy. I've actually heard of, what's wild? I remember before this argument, when I was like younger, before this whole abortion argument, I've heard of women having great babies before and everything turning out just fine. Like, man, I'm telling you, like, I've literally heard about this happening before. It's a very rare case. So when you hear about it, you hear that, oh, they had the kid's doing well, they learn to love the kid and all that wild stuff. It's like, well, crazy. But it does kind of show the I guess the unlimited amount of love or compassion a mother has for the child, or I guess used to have.
When a life is eliminated. One of the most powerful things I get to do is go down college campuses, and all the time I meet young kids that were babies, that were scheduled for abortions, that were conceived in rape, and they are full citizens of America that are flourishing and doing amazing things.
True.
And I believe that we should get back to this idea that all human beings are equal regardless of how you entered the world.
Thank you. Then considering obviously,
Yeah, not just when we're talking about Israel and Hamas. Left.
You've talked about how we need more abortion restrictions, but we're also seeing low birth rates in America and also in the West as a whole. How do you think they interact with each other, and do you think they're related?
I'm sorry, just to make sure I'm hearing the question. And it's not your fault. It's the acoustics. You said falling fertility rates and abortion rates.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So we actually already have a window into this. In Texas, we have completely abolished surgical abortion. You could still do an at-home abortion, which is mifepristone, I think is what it's called. And birth rates are up. About 200,000 new babies net over the last 18 months in Texas versus the years prior. And so, yeah, I mean, in the UK and America, we wouldn't need as many third world immigrants if we didn't kill our babies all the time in the womb.
Damn.
Thank you very much. My next question is,
especially, like I said, I always bring this up, especially in the Black community where we abort more than we, produce or give birth to kids. It's kind of crazy, but it is quite the fad. And the reason why I say fad is because, there's people making songs about aborting kids.
is slightly a larger picture, considering not abortion, but just the treatment of men and women. So what do you think the role of red pill media is in the men's rights movement? And what are the implications you think it has for women?
Okay, so I'm sorry, you said that what is the role of right-wing media in the
red
men's
pill
rights
media
movement? Yes.
Red pill media.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be.
No, don't worry.
I want to make sure I answer the question.
So
what is the role of right-wing media in the
red pill media?
I'm sorry. Okay, red pill media.
Yes.
What
in the men's rights movement?
What is?
Hold on. Now, Charlie Kirk is not a red pill. Just want to let you remember, the man's married, one wife, high school sweetheart, I think. Yeah, he's not red pill. Like red pill would be, I mean, you might want to ask that question to, like, I don't know, Andrew Tate, Myron Gaines, maybe the two. Those would be probably the two biggest red pillars I know.
Red pill media.
So, I'm trying to think of a more broad definition.
Can you give me a name?
Think like Joe Rogan, your Andrew Tate.
Joe Rogan's awesome.
Yeah, I don't even think Joe Rogan would count as, like, I don't know, like dating red pill or just red pill information or in the truth information. Because then, yeah, Joe Rogan would be considered under that. But if we're talking about dating red pill, like men and women dynamics, nah, that's not them.
Right?
What's wrong with Joe Rogan?
I didn't say there's anything wrong.
I know.
actually-
What's Joe Rogan's role? He helps save civilization. He's a bow hunter. He's fun.
Okay. My more general point is very much content that's being produced right now regarding men, how they act in terms of very toxic masculinity, how they treat women.
Okay.
Something we've seen, at least in the UK, was the show Adolescence came out recently.
Yeah, which was a complete fiction, by the way.
Talking about
What was it based on?
talking about the kind of the way media interacts.
I mean, it's a
with-
mythology no different than Lord of the Rings. Like, there's no basis for this.
I mean, there's a slight difference.
Well, you're right. The difference was that the main character was actually an immigrant, not a white person. That's right. That's the one thing they got wrong.
Now I'm done.
So
Damn. Yo, my man going off right now. But yeah, that show Adolescence, that was absolutely wild. It was just like, whoa. Because he watched certain influencers, he's gonna start hurting women. That is wild, guys. But hey, I guess that red pill did shake up the media space for a while here. And it had women on their back feet trying to defend some wild things. And then it also had men on their back feet trying to think of wilder things that how we should deal with women.
is it a complete fiction, or is it?
Yeah, it's a
that they've got
mythology. I mean,
things
if they would have
wrong?
talked about how it was like a third world Arab young kid radicalized by Islam and then decide to go stab somebody, then they would have gotten more correct in that Netflix special. But yes, the point that I think, and by the way, this kind of scold, not you, you've been great, but like that ridiculous, the head of the Conservative Party being scolded. Have you not watched Adolescence? What are you talking about? As if it's like some sort of like you have not read the catechism of like the core faith. Have you not experienced the full Eucharist? It's just like preposterous. And so, I mean, sorry, you're asking a good faith question. Like, what is the role of right-wing media? Of course, they're toxic masculinity. There's a war on men in the West. We as men are here to be protectors and defenders and providers. We should treat women with total dignity and respect, of which I'm a proponent of men. I know this crazy Christian idea of saving yourself until marriage and not having sex until marriage. I believe
It does seem like toxic masculinity does revolve around just us no longer listening to women and what they tell us to do when dating. Or, giving us the ideas that, don't work while dating. Oh, it did say, it's like, man, so you're really going to ask, if you're a hunter, are you going to ask a deer how to catch a deer? Nope.
abstinence is not talked about enough. In fact, you want to dignify women, all of a sudden don't have a bunch of hookup sex on Tinder and every app that you can get your hands on and start acting like men. And so insofar that any media is talking about using women as objects or as ways to try and sleep around a lot, I reject that. At the same time, I am a traditionalist where I believe most, not all, but most women of the West deep down desire getting married and having children and having a husband who loves them. We have a lot of sex in this society and we don't have enough love in this society because love comes from connection, it comes from the soul, it comes from something deeper, not just an orgasm.
Next. Even though orgasms are nice, but yeah, love is deeper than orgasms.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your answer.
But before she moves on, I do want to get to this Tommy Lorraine video where she was damn near going off on the generation of Gen Z. And Tommy Lorraine has honestly put herself in the red pill view lens, when it comes to female dating dynamics, because there's this whole thing coming out like, oh, these female conservatives are secretly covert feminists. They preach the same thing the feminists do. Go work hard, not be a family. Don't subjugate yourself to a man, all that wild stuff. And so, and remember, this is the same conservative group that says they're preaching different than what the liberal women are preaching, which in policies they are, but in terms of dating dynamics and how they want women to deal with men, and they do preach the same thing.
Gen Z is getting called out for doom spending habits, like spending thousands of dollars on Taylor Swift concerts or lavish vacations. Okay, well, check this out. 63% of Gen Z folks feel that they are being judged for how they manage their money. Nearly half of them blame schools for not teaching them how to save. Can you believe this? Tommy Lahren joining us.
18 to 28 years old feel like it's been viewed critically. Damn. So here's the thing. I always did say now, and this is what absolutely kills me about media and about how they low-key dub men. They low-key when men cry out, and I'm talking about this 18 to 20, they cried out and they said, hey, yo, we feel like we didn't get this. And we're just making our complaints because we're trying to feel heard, and then they get ridiculed. This is what caused the red pill movement. I don't think you guys understand. Like I said, this is what caused it, is the fact that men say something, and this will cause a lot of men just to shut in altogether. Is when we say something, you guys tell us to express ourselves, let us know what the problems that are going on, and then you make fun of us for the problems that we express. And at that point, I'm just going like, what's the point of even asking for our opinion? What's the point of even, bro? It's almost like disingenuous to ask men what's wrong and then make fun of them when they tell you what's wrong. It's like, what was the point of asking?
What happened to common sense? And B, doesn't anybody take responsibility for anything anymore?
Well, because I'm a millennial, I'm going to leave it to Gen Z, of course, to make some
And I'm a millennial as well. Like, trust me, I'm a millennial as well, but I kind of feel for them. And here's the thing, to sit there and blame Gen Z, it's kind of like honestly, it's like putting a curtain over our own failures, because who raised these guys? Who are their big brothers? Who are their parents? Let's not forget who these people came from, because came from us. And if they're fucked up, then we failed them. Period, point blank. And as much as I know, I like to blame these Gen Zs are crazy, but at the end of the day, they are my little brothers, sisters, little cousins, and all that. And if I feel that way about them, then what does that say about me as somebody that they look up to? I must have failed them in some way, shape, or form then. So I don't like to be too critical of Gen Z, because then it's just like, yo, then we got to turn this back on ourselves. Because like I said, Gen Z just kept it real with us and said, yo, we felt like you guys failed us when it came to education. And we did. Bro, let's get the bullshit. Like, some of us are older than Gen Z. We understood that, yo, they weren't teaching finance back then. They weren't teaching it. They weren't even teaching us real skills back then. We had to learn real skills once we got out into the real world. And that's a fact. So let's not pretend like Gen Z's not standing on something here. Like, they literally shared something with us and they're about to get ridiculed for it. What was the point? This is why Red Pill exists. For people like these who just shit on men every time they express themselves, but it'll be the same people to say, men, you need to express yourselves. Like, I cannot believe it.
excuses, but maybe on this point, I will give them a little bit of credit in their assessment. I do think we need to be teaching students about finances, basic understanding of how things work in the world, what an interest rate is, what a down payment is, what a mortgage is. A lot of people graduate high school and even college, and they have no idea because they were never taught. Now, maybe less gender identity, CRT, find out who you are, maybe more finances, math.
Yeah, but do you blame Gen Z or do you blame the teachers who are usually the generation before Gen Z, like the millennials and maybe the Gen X and all that good stuff? So wouldn't that be for us? Wouldn't we have to take that one to the chin?
Math, hard money. I think that would do students well. But on the flip side of this, Stuart, I mean, you look at the money in your bank account, and if the money in your bank account can't afford to go to Taylor Swift or eat out 5 days a week, that is basic common sense. So they can't fully put the blame on the education environment for this one.
Okay, 2 points I'd like to make. Number one, where are the parents? Isn't it the parents' job to explain a few things about money? And B,
because the parents, just like I said, weren't taught too well about money themselves unless they took that upon themselves to learn about it. Like, I even said during my generation, millennials, like, we can't sit there and shit on Gen Z when we got our own problems as well. And so does Gen X. There's Gen Xers who are terrible with money. That's a generation that raised us. So we're not going to sit here and pretend like bad financial, literacy hasn't been kind of passed down through the generations as Americans have persist. I mean, maybe that's why we're at this huge debt crisis. Maybe. Might have something to do with it.
do you really want children to learn about money from the teachers' union? You really want that, Tommy Lahren?
And honestly, that's true. Like, I ain't gonna lie. I also do blame the fact that classes don't include finances, and that's on us. Like, think about this, guys. How can we sit there and blame Gen Z? We went through the same thing as these guys, and we didn't be like, you know what? We missed it, so let's make sure these guys get it. We didn't ensure that the next generation was getting a better education, and that's on us. That's on us and everybody before us.
Listen, I'd rather they learn about money, because the thing about math is you can't monkey with it. You can't make it about gender identity. You can't make it about activism. It's just math, and it has to add up or it doesn't. So I think they would be better suited to learn from educators about finances. But I would also say this. These are the same young people who want their student loans to be forgiven. Now, that's a horrible lesson to these young people who already don't know about finances. You're saying you took out a loan and now you don't have to pay it back? Ooh. That's a bad lesson to put in the books there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Okay, look at this.
Okay, I agree with her on that one. Joe Biden was a lot, but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Now, that's a bit disingenuous, because you gotta, and I always like to say, go into the mindset of people before you judge them. Now, these kids are, going through school. Some of them dropped out. Some of them felt like they completely wasted their time because they were pushed to go into the wrong type of degrees, because they don't really push these kids into STEM degrees unless you had an interest in STEM as a kid. So, yeah. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses for these guys, but I would like to point out and just say that some of them kind of got enticed, and that's their fault for being enticed and being like, well, well, wait, hold on. I can get all this burden like lifted off me that I done placed on myself. Oh, but Joe Biden says he's willing to take it out. It is enticing. And then when you dangle it in front of them, forgive a couple others, and then leave everybody else to dry, how do you think they're gonna feel? If nobody got it, they'd have been okay with it. Could have been like, all right, it was just a pipe dream. But then some people actually got it, and then a lot of people were left like dry, like they didn't get theirs either. Then how do you think they're gonna feel? They're gonna feel like they didn't maybe missed out on something. They didn't feel like they were unfairly treated. But nobody really addresses that because it's a little too late. Because hey, they've been forgiven. It's already down the drain.
This headline, quote, young people are skeptical of the American dream. Youngsters, I can see that. They are having a hard time in some aspects of the American dream. Buying a home, it's not easy. I think their skepticism is understandable. What say you?
It's definitely understandable. There are a lot of young people out there who really want to stop renting. They want to buy a home. They want to live what most of us consider to be that American dream. But I would also say this, going back to the spending habits. Yes, homes are expensive. Things are expensive right now. There's no disputing that. But how are young people spending their money? Are they spending it recklessly? Are they not able to buy a home because they're buying the Taylor Swift concert tickets, because they're eating out, because they're buying designer items so they can put it on social media? And what is
bit disingenuous, like I said, because remember, Tommy Lorraine, the same person I was arguing, and Joe Biden's a comment, like, oh, these kids, these people, our generation can't even afford houses no more because of their housing prices done doubled. Now you're over here trying to eviscerate Gen Z, pretty much calling them lazy for not being able to afford the housing prices that are doubled. Like, bro, what?
Is their idea of the American dream? Is it being able to have that house and the white picket fence, or is it being a TikTok influencer and making money that way by posting makeup videos?
Regardless of what they want to do. And here's the thing, I really don't care what they want to do. As long as they want to do something with their lives that add value, sure, let them go ahead and do it. Even if they want to be a content creator, I mean, they still got to have a job on the side until said endeavor pops off. So even then, let's not pretend like we haven't had people in the professional field turn into content creators. So I don't think it's a bash on content creators you want to go for, but I do think you want to address the fact that prices have doubled in the housing market during the Biden administration, which we're trying to deal with in the Trump administration, but it is what it is right now. So I would kind of leave them alone on that point, because yeah, it is a bit harder to afford the American dream that, well, I'm be real with you, my parents and their parents before them was able to get.
I think that they have maybe a skewed perception of what the American dream has always been, and that's understandable. Things evolve, things change, but I think young people maybe need to come back to reality, especially right now. Look at your spending, look at what you're making, and also when you're going to get a job out there, maybe put less emphasis on the so-called work-life balance, because
yeah, because Jobs ain't trying to hear that BS. I ain't gonna lie, that is that weak talk. I will give her that one though. Like, of course, focus on your spend. Make sure you're living below your means and all that good stuff. So you can actually build an emergency fund. So all this good stuff, but I don't know. In the beginning, it does seem like she was being a bit ruthless towards Gen Z, and it does. And here's the craziest thing: like when Tommy Lorraine speaks, she never kind of goes at Gen Z women, and just be real with them. Like, Gen Z women, y'all fat, Y'all are unhealthy. Y'all overly educated, but you ain't really doing too much. You're not producing enough children to low key help the the population. It's like, and then Gen Z men. I mean, like, bro, what the hell are y'all doing? Like, y'all acting soft. Y'all talking about y'all want work life balance. Y'all damn near working half ass in your personal life and work life. It's on both sides. I get it, but let's not sit here and pretend like they ain't learning from some people here. Like, let's not. And I do like to blame the millennials. We got to put that on us a little bit. We can't pretend like the younger generation of the millennials wasn't acting that way. Or like, let's not pretend. I'm talking about I'm part of the youngest members of the generation of the millennials.
Follow-up question on that in terms of Red Pill Media, specifically stuff like Andrew Tate's content, which I think is probably on the edge and kind of the fringe of it. What are your thoughts then in terms of when it kind of pushes the limits?
Yeah, I don't know Andrew. I've never met him. I mean, he has a certain following and he has a certain approach. I've seen some of his content. Some of it I like, some of it I disagree with. I can only speak for what I believe, and I think that's fine. I mean, if there's a video or a statement you want me to respond to, I can do that. But more broadly, I think that the men of the West have been infantilized for too long. We have the lost boys of Peter Pan that are basically watching porn all day long and doing drugs, and they don't have to go on an adventure to mature themselves. They have nothing significant to aim for. And part of that needs to be challenge. Young men need challenge. They need something that elevates them above their primitive state of just indulging the flesh. And that means an entire society that knows that young men need other men to communicate to them in a way that is not that you're the worst, most awful thing ever, because we see the men of the West checking out. And I would love during our Q&A portion, if somebody thinks that's a good thing or a bad thing. And if you think it's a good thing, at least you are morally consistent. If you think that the men of a society checking out is a good thing, well, you are getting your goal, because that is what is happening. We have like this generation that has completely disappeared of young men, particularly in my country, in the middle parts of America. I don't know if the same trends are here in the UK, but I do know that it is intercontinental, this trend. We see it across Europe and across the UK, of this hyperfixation on feminism and female empowerment, while also not acknowledging that strong men built the West and won the wars and built the building that we're in right now. And without strong men, then you all of a sudden see civilization unfold upon itself, and we're seeing that happen in real time.
True.
Thank you so much. Going to move on slightly in terms of topic area. What is your stance on Project 2025?
It's going great.
I like it. I mean, when you read it out all the way through, I mean, it's actually a pretty good plan. I like it.
To what extent do you think it's feasible in terms of all the actual clauses within it? And
In
also,
all fairness, it's a 1,200 page document. I haven't even read it all. But the parts about deconstructing the administrative state, there's an entire chapter of Project 2025 that our former president, who wasn't even president, he was brain dead. And you all know it's true. And the media covered up for it, and they lied about it, and they smeared all of us that acknowledged it and knew it. He did not even know the year he got elected. That is a fact. You can go listen to the Robert Hur tapes, and the leader of the United States of America did not know the year that he got elected. And an aide had to insert, be like, no, sir, you were actually elected in this year, not that year. He didn't know the year that he left office as vice president. He thought that his son died in combat, not of cancer, in an official testimony to the United States government about a criminal investigation. So we had an administrative state running our government. So about Project 2025, Joe Biden and the Democrats and some very weak Republicans told us the border is a problem that cannot be solved. You just have to get used to the fact that 2.5 million people come into your country every single year. There's nothing you can do. In Project 2025 and other documents, there's like, no, we can operationalize the border. We're going to do remain in Mexico, all these other details. So in April, 60,000 people last year came across the southern border illegally. 60,000. Last April, this one, 6. President Donald Trump did not need Congress. He didn't need a new act of legislation. Turns out we just needed a new president who knew what to do and actually cared about sovereignty. So I think the project's going great. I don't know all the details, but I'm thrilled that America has its mojo back.
thank you very much. My next question is something you said regarding Obama. You described him as a failed cultural revolution agent.
What did I say? A failed what?
Failed cultural revolution agent.
Oh, that's right. That's correct.
Yeah. Can you please clarify what you mean by the statement and your position on basically DEI more broadly?
What was the DEI part?
So can you clarify, A, what you meant by that statement about Obama, and then your position on DEI more broadly?
Oh, okay, got it. So I'll do the second one second. Okay, so yeah, Obama's revolution, partly in his book Dreams from My Father, which I encourage you to read, was that he thought that he would bring forth a great awakening and a reconfiguration of America. And he thought that Hillary Clinton was like an automatic to become president. They thought they were going to stack the Supreme Court with 3 new Supreme Court justices, and his revolution never actually hit its final mark. Instead, President Donald Trump won in 2016. We got 3 Supreme Court justices. We were displaced from power from 4 years. And now President Trump is back on top, and almost
Pretty much President Trump did everything that Obama was planning on accident.
every one of the core things that Obama ran on or defended have fallen out of popularity with the American people. And so you can like Obama. I actually think there's plenty of things you can like about him. He's very talented. He's very charismatic. He's very good on his feet. He respected the White House. He respected the Oval Office. There's plenty of stuff. Like, I'm not like an automatic hate Obama guy, but you must just be factual. Like, his vision, what he wanted to do for America, has failed. It's failed in the popular vote majority. It's failed in our public opinion polls. Young people, which used to be Obama's greatest constituency, college campuses were all on fire for Obama. Well, young people actually moved the most towards Donald Trump this last election, and President Donald Trump won the youth vote in Michigan and several other battleground states. As far as DEI, my stance on it, I'm very much against it, and they say it stands for diversity, equity, inclusion, but it really stands for didn't earn it.
Damn, standing on it.
Can you elaborate more why you think it didn't earn it?
Yeah, I mean, so again, so DEI is a very innocuous term that can be applied in many ways. So affirmative action is an extension of DEI, and they're kind of like cousins to each other. So there's 4 elements to this. There's critical race theory, which is the legal, it's kind of like the philosophical theory. We could talk about it if you like. There's affirmative action, which is most definitely in practice, if you will. And then there's disparate impact theory, which has been the predominant legal theory in the United States to justify the U.S. Civil Rights Act. And it's kind of, it's downstream tributary effects. And then there is diversity, equity, inclusion, which I think the best example of DEI can be how it's kind of taken over the corporate workforce. There's 2 ways I could look into it. Number 1, DEI demands that you must hire these new ridiculous diversity departments for no reason whatsoever that weigh down costs, that are basically speech police internally of our major companies, that make it a less desirable place to work, and honestly less productive and less likely for us to be able to compete against the Chinese communists. So I could talk and I can give you examples on that if you'd like. The other part of this, though,
I mean, yeah, when they're a little bit too gender inclusive, you can walk past somebody and say, "Hey, bro," and then you're getting called into the HR office like, "Yeah, you said hey, bro, to somebody today." He's like, "Yeah, I did." Yeah, that was actually a woman, and he's trans, and well, she's transgender, and you misgendered somebody. So, sir, I'm sorry, but you're fired. I know, right? Crazy.
is that you could insert, I don't know how much deep you want me to go into this, but fundamentally DEI is about race quotas in America. I don't know if it adheres in the UK. And so when you have a quota and you want to reach that quota, you will then have to relax the standards of excellence. When you build a big organization, you say, this is what we stand for. Harvard, for example, used to stand for truth, veritas. Every organization must have a telos, so must have something you aim at. And if you aim at anything other than excellence or meritocracy as a company, then you will compromise those things. If all of a sudden you want to be equitable, well, maybe that company will not be that good anymore. And we see the slippage of our excellence here in the West, where if we get away from excellence and meritocratic type undergirding philosophy and towards other type substructures, I think it's a remarkably dangerous proposition.
Thank you very much. Again, moving slightly, you spoke briefly about President Trump and kind of the success he's having in the US right now. So what are your thoughts on basically the tariffs issue we've basically been seeing with the US?
I'm supportive. Look, when
You mean the ones you guys capitulated on?
we're talking about this, I'm sure, in the Q&A. Always look at the end result with Trump, because the process can sometimes drive people mad and a little crazy, and the up and down. But like in the first term, everyone was very critical of his Middle East policy. And then we got the Abraham Accords, which was an incredible accomplishment of peace between Israel and the Emiratis and the Saudis. And so there's a process that you have to allow unfold here. As far as the tariffs brought a lot of countries to the table. you guys got actually a pretty good deal out of this. President Trump was generous enough to actually exempt Rolls-Royce and some of your major manufacturing in the latest bilateral trade deal with the United States. And I want to see our two countries grow closer together. And I think the president has the same wish. But as all the tariffs are eventually pointing at what we should, and this is the question for Europe, and this is the question for the United Kingdom. Will Europe and the United Kingdom decide to embrace the West, or will it look very, very far to the East? The rising power struggle in front of us is all the things we've talked about, but it really is the Chinese Communist Party versus Western values. The Chinese Communist Party is antithetical to even those of you that are liberal in this audience right now, is antithetical to what you believe and how you believe it. The CCP is the greatest threat to so many of these different things on the planet. And as it is this rising power, we have to reckon with this question. Are we okay as America? I don't know if that's the case here in the UK. Are we okay with not making any of our own vitamin C, none of our antibiotics, none of our own critical pharmaceuticals? We do not make our own drone materials. In fact, we are supposed to make 4 submarines a year. We only make 2 submarines a year because we have to get the parts from China. And so I think there is a vassal state problem that is presenting itself in the West, where we have grown addicted to cheap products. And the Chinese, they do manufacturing very well. And you are underestimating the Chinese if you think it's just that it's cheap labor. They're very organized. They're very industrious. They take manufacturing seriously. Being the head of a manufacturing plant in China is like being a mayor of a small town. You have power, you have prestige, you have honor. You can call the local governor at any time. They prioritized it, and they knew that this was a way that they could enter into.
Not all of them, Charlie. Only the ones that are good with the government or that are owned by members of the CCP gets that type of privilege. So no, not every factory in China is getting to hook up like that. Not every factory in China is ultra clean. That's what I'm saying. It's that perception that they feed you about China that's a complete lie.
To the global market. So tariffs are in some ways a very, let's say, provocative way to bring us to a conclusion that no Western leader other than President Trump has had the moral courage to actually bring out into the open, which is like, hey guys, this century will be defined as to who actually stands up against China. And it's better that we do it in 2025 other than 2045, because we might not have the chips to bargain against them.
Thank you. On that, I think China's response to that has been very much, lax in terms of they don't care and kind of like retaliating with their own tariffs. Do you actually think they can get to a position where Trump and China can kind of like have a...
All right, now let's get to the debate here, because instead of him having, having us go at it. All right, let's get to it.
If your answer is no, MPs advocate for a value-neutral free speech policy. So regardless of who is in power in this country, you guys can challenge and you guys can speak openly. That is the bedrock of a liberal democracy.
I mean, shoot. Also, I remember somebody said this on, I think it was CNN. Somebody says, I think then he said to Anderson Cooper, he said, democracy does not exist without journalism. And I was like, damn, he kind of got a point.
Thank you so much.
You.
And I'm going to shoot to Q&A. So
would you like me? The show trial will begin.
Yes.
I think one of the best ways to bolster an argument, to construct an argument, is to foresee potential counter arguments and to address them. And because you've been doing this for quite some time and you're well versed in what you believe, in your ideologies and your beliefs, if you were in my position, what would you ask yourself that would be most effective in challenging those core tenets?
Thank you for that question. I didn't expect that. So respectful and thoughtful. I don't know if you're a liberal or not. I don't know, but because it's implied in your question that you are. Is that correct or not? Because you said, what would you believe as your core tenets? I don't know. But anyway, do you want to remark?
I take it as a compliment.
Okay, great. Okay, that's fine. Always come into every conversation believing that you might be wrong and that you might learn something. And you guys go here to a ridiculously old institution that has some of the greatest thinkers that I admire, Tolkien, Lewis, the list goes on.
Ooh, excuse me.
And I don't know the core canon of what you are studying, but I can definitely tell you in America, there is a de-emphasis of the thinkers and of the writers that were once, let's just say, embedded within the core curriculum of a place like this. And I would encourage all of you that are intellectually honest, that are on the left, that are liberals, to know what conservatives believe better than conservatives. Read our literature. Read C.S. Lewis' Mere Christianity. Go read Edmund Burke. Go read Russell Kirk, of which I share a name, no relation. Go read Milton Friedman. Understand it. Spend time with it. Treat it with respect. Don't just do it as a passerby, because the very few, and there's a couple, right-wing students in this room, they've done that to all the left-wing ideas. No, it's fine. I'm calling them out. Because they've done that with the left-wing ideas. They've had to. You cannot proceed in many universities without having to reckon and reconcile with that. So I mean,
you do got to know the history of, I guess, the adversary. And if you're going to go against the libs, you might want to study the libs' history and where they get their arguments from, where they start having these arguments, when they start pushing them into the Supreme Court, all that good stuff. Because you want to know what the foundation of their argument is. And sometimes these people don't even know the foundation of the argument.
Your question.
Thank you. I just want to quickly follow on from that. I did my undergrad in the US, and so
what school?
Michigan State.
Oh, go Spartans! Yeah.
So I've here and there I've been labelled leftist, rightist. So I've heard it all.
I hate labels, honestly. It's ridiculous. So you seem very sweet. So yeah.
Thank you. And I wanted to know if you believe that I know your views on college education, specifically in the US, and that you believe that it does not deliver what it should. Do you think that, whether right or wrong, that because you don't have that degree, your influence within society might be restricted compared to, for example, Jordan Peterson?
Yes. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
keep going.
You're
exactly right. This is a barrier that I have to overcome. I did not go to university or college. I just went straight into doing stuff. And a criticism I get is, well, you didn't go to college, therefore you're not capable of dialoguing. That is inherently an argument from an authority. But yes, that is a good argument.
I don't like that argument either, but and here's the thing, I'm actually a college graduate. So that's the thing. It's like I can agree also. I can agree to the fact that he kind of don't need to do all that to, do what he's doing now. Like, acting like my man's out here doing surgeries or something, or out here doing, like, I don't know, creating contraptions or whatever without no college background. No, the man's just sitting here speaking on his beliefs and doing the research into it and the research into politics and all that good stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, and if he came from a pretty good high school background and came from a good private school, I mean, let's be real, that's kind of all he needs to run off with. He'll be just fine.
If you want to be taken seriously, because it's of course a barrier, because it actually only motivates me more to learn more and to dive deeper and to become better understanding of these ideas. But yes, there is at least in the States, of which you studied your undergrad, there is an emphasis on the credential. However, that also plays into my core argument as the indictment of the current state of the academy. If it is a credential, then it's a very expensive, time-intensive credential just to be able to have people take you more seriously. And that is kind of like the downfall of what do you do instead of like, where did you go? And I don't like that.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about something you've probably never talked about.
Never.
Abortion.
Oh, yeah. Now, if you make an argument I've never heard, I will give you great credit.
I wanted to basically try to determine whether you, as you, I believe, believe that abortion in case of rape should be illegal because of the right to life being absolute, or the right to life is supposed to be weighted against autonomy and freedom, but just the burden of carrying a child of a rapist is simply insufficient to justify abortion. And if I may, I would use a thought experiment for that.
Is it The Violinist?
A modified version of it.
Yeah, see, I've heard it all, man. So you got it. It's Oxford. You got to go deeper, man. I'm going to be honest. Like, I got hundreds of hours on this topic. Give me something I haven't heard.
It is deeper. So the question is whether you would, if anyone doesn't know the argument, I'm going to just spell it out in the modified version. So the Society of Music Lovers has determined that your wife is the only person that can save the life of a famous violinist. They have kidnapped her and their circulatory systems are currently attached. She can detach from the violinist it will be safe for her, but it will lead to the violinist's death. The question is, would you be willing to force her to stay attached to the violinist for 9 months? And then the next question is, would your answer change if it was 10, 11, 12 months, her whole life? If perhaps she was supposed to be bedridden for the whole time, to increase, for the sake of, well, seeing what happens if the burden significantly increases.
Well, the second part of the question is irrelevant because only for 9 months, to keep it applicable to the topic at hand, correct? Otherwise, it's a completely irrelevant moral question. Secondly, just to be clear, you're not kidnapped when you get pregnant. So I don't quite understand the analogy, right? Number three, yes, I mean, if in this, I always found this analogy outrageous. If you're asking me or my wife would answer, if I have to suffer for 9 months so that another being will assuredly get life, I will do that. That's how she would answer.
May I follow up? Yeah, so the question is whether the right of life is absolute.
It is.
Or whether some level of inconvenience can be taken into account, or rather burden can be taken into account and weighed against it. In this case, I'm asking, what if it was, for example, for her whole life? Because, well,
it's not irrelevant. I haven't thought deeply about it. I honestly.
Yeah, because first you changed it from, oh, well, she's just attached to this guy for 9 months. And if she can be released from him sooner, then the guy will die. Well, you already told you. You said, well, I'll be okay with my wife sticking to that man for 9 months until they're in the clear. But now you want to switch up the argument like, well, if there was no guarantee that she was moving at all, then would you? Come on now, man, because you're supposed to try to relate it to, a woman being pregnant. And you can't do that if you're talking about, oh, well, if she was there for life, then what? No.